Good evening and welcome to Yoga by Jacqueline. I'm Jacqueline, and tonight we're going to be going over a few slow exercises for opening up our hips. So when you're ready to, if you'd like to go ahead and find a comfortable lying down position, maybe supine would be ideal. I like to have my hands on my knees and I like to just slowly roll down. I tuck my tailbone under and roll all the way down onto the mat. That feels nice. And maybe just for the first couple of moments, we can get into our intention tonight and maybe just get a little relaxed here on the mat. Let the shoulders kind of roll down and away from the ears and melt into the ground. And then maybe let the arms rest down beside the body. Our hands can face upwards or downwards, whatever is our preference. Take a moment to close the eyes. Begin to relax the body, relax our jaw. Starting to breathe in and out through the nose. Letting go of all of our distractions, any outside thoughts. Just working on being here in the present moment, feeling the different sensations going on in our body. And when you're ready to, let's take the hands up overhead. Extend the arms out nice and long overhead and stretch the tips of the toes away from the tips of the fingers. And then maybe draw the knees in towards the chest, giving them a big squeeze. And tuck the chin towards the chest if you'd like. Release the head. And from here, we're going to go ahead and gently let the feet come to the floor, keeping the knees bent. And we're going to do reverse pigeon pose. So we're going to take our right ankle and cross our right ankle over the left knee. Left foot is on the ground, kind of near our glute, creating this nice little window space in between our legs. Our right hand is going to thread through the window space, and we're going to clasp our hands behind the left knee crease. Let the left foot just dangle down. We'd like our right knee to press away from the body. And as we exhale, we'll draw the left knee in towards the chest. So right knee pressing away, left knee drawing in towards the chest. We can bend our elbows to help draw the left knee in towards our chest. We can use our right elbow to press the right knee away from the body as our left knee draws in. Few breaths here. Let's go ahead and make a couple of circles with the left ankle. Just roll the left ankle a few times in one direction. And then don't forget to do the opposite direction, maybe clockwise and then counterclockwise, if that feels good for your left ankle. And let's go ahead and switch legs. Release the hands. Let the left foot come back down to the floor, and then the right foot come to the floor. Right knee is bent. And now we'll cross our left ankle over the right knee, creating that nice little window in between the legs. Deep breath in, and on the exhale, let's take our hands, clasp them behind the right knee crease. So our left hand is threaded through the space between our thighs. Our hands are clasped behind the right knee or the right knee crease, and then our right foot is just dangling down. Let our left knee sink away or press away from the body as we're drawing our right knee in towards the chest. We can bend our elbows, help us draw the right knee a little closer. And each side is going to be different. So we may have a tight right hip, we may have a tight left hip. We should be feeling this in the outer edge of our left hip and our left glute. And since we did circles with our left leg, left ankle, let's go ahead and do a few circles with our right ankle. So going counterclockwise, maybe 3 or 4 times. And then switching direction, going clockwise. Nice. And when you feel like you've had an equal try on both sides, we can release the hands, let the right foot go back to the floor, uncross the legs, let the left foot go back to the floor. In fact, let's extend the left leg all the way out in front of us. And let's bring the right knee into the chest. From here, we're going to come into happy baby pose. So let's take both hands, use both hands to draw the right knee in towards the chest. And then from here, we'll release the left hand. We'll take the right hand and use the right hand to slide or roll open the right hip. We want our right knee to come down towards our armpit or down towards the right side of the body. So feeling the stretch in the inner groin here, also in the glute. We can take our right hand, place it behind the right knee, and then drawing the right knee towards the armpit. Maybe the elbow touches the ground, maybe not. If the elbow does touch the ground, then we can have a different hand placement. We can take our 2 peace fingers, place our peace fingers between the big toe and the second toe, and then make a nice hook onto the big toe. Take our right thumb and place it on top of the big toe, almost like you're trying to cap the toe. From here, we can lift the right heel up towards the sky, trying to stack the right heel over the right knee. And it may get there first try, it may not get there for 900 tries. We have no idea. We're just working this pose into our body, nice and slow. If it's uncomfortable to have the hook on the toe, we can also use our hand and bring it to the arch or the instep of the foot. We want to be flexed through the heel so we have a very solid ankle. If we don't have the solid ankle, then we could turn the toe or turn the ankle and give an extra stretch to the outsides of the ankle, which we would not like to do in this pose. So keeping the foot or the heel flexed, bringing the heel over the knee sinking down towards the armpit. We can also bring our hand to the outside of the right heel if that's available to us. So whatever feels most comfortable for the hand, on the foot, behind the knee. Breathing here. And take one more breath in. On the exhale, we'll go ahead and release the right hand, release the right leg, extend it all the way out in front of us. Switching sides. Left knee, draw in towards the chest. Give a big squeeze with both hands. And then slowly let the left knee sink out towards the left armpit. Same thing with the left side. We're doing the same thing that we did with the right. Our left hand goes behind the left knee crease. Draw the knee towards the ground. And then bring the left heel up and stack it over the left knee if we can. We can always do the hook, 2-piece finger hook. Cap the toe with the thumb. We can reach for the arch of the foot. We can reach for the outside heel. Whatever feels most comfortable for you. Breathing here. When you feel like you've had an equal try on both sides, take one more breath. Relax the shoulders. And we'll gently release the left foot. Extend the left foot all the way out in front of us. And we'll do full happy baby. We're going to bring in both knees into the chest. Open the knees out towards the armpits. Splay out the knees. And then our hands can be placed behind the knees. Or we can reach for the big toes, the outer edges of the heels, the arch of the foot, whatever is available for your body. Knees sinking out towards the sides of the body or out towards the armpits. Lift the heels up, so we stack the heels over the knees. Breathing here. Let the shoulders relax down towards the ground. You might notice the tailbone starts to float up off the mat. There might be a part of the spine that's pressing extra special hard into the mat. We want to relieve that pressure. Take our tailbone and press the tailbone down towards the ground, so that way the sacrum is nice and flat on the mat. That helps relieve any pressure in each one of the vertebrae that we're poking into the mat there. So heels lifted, trying to get them over the knees. Knees sinking down towards the sides of the body. Big groin opening here. Relax the shoulders if we can. Relax the face if we're gritting our teeth. With each exhale, see if we can sink a little deeper into our happy baby pose. And this is also called dead bug pose. I think happy baby sounds a little more uplifting because babies are always reaching towards their feet or whatnot. So breathing here. We'll take 1 or 2 more breaths. And then we'll go ahead and release the feet. And let's use our legs to rock up to sit. So we want to tuck the chin towards the chest, have a nice round spine, and just start to swing the legs. And it might take a few times to rock all the way up. Feels kind of good as we roll the spine up. So from here, we're going to come into a comfortable cross-legged position. Remove the fleshy parts from underneath the sits bones. Now, if cross-legged is not that comfortable for our hips, we can also use a block. By placing the block underneath the glutes, underneath the sits bones, we allow gravity to kind of help us come into that cross-legged position. So ankles are crossed, let the knees sink down. So feeling it here. And notice which foot is on top because we'll switch in just a little bit. We always kind of have a go-to side which feels a little bit more comfortable. One of our hips is a little more open than the other. So you can use the block or not. It's totally up to you. Your choice. So from here, let's do a couple of seated spinal twists. So let's inhale, sweep the arms all the way up. Big breath in. As we exhale, let's twist to the left. Our right hand is going to come across the body. Our left hand is going to come behind the left hip crease and press in to the ground. Left hand into the ground, and then follow the gaze over the left shoulder. Now, when we do this on the other side, after we do this on the other side, we'll switch it into a nice flow. So inhale, let's bring the arms up, coming back to center, unwinding the barber pole. Exhale, left hand to the right knee, right hand behind the right hip. Press the right hand into the floor, lift the chest up, and then follow the gaze over the right shoulder. Breathing here. Both sits bones pressing into the ground. Inhale, head come back to center. Lift the arms all the way up, untwist. So we're going to go with a flow here. Exhale, right hand to the left knee, left hand behind the back. Inhale, center. Exhale to the right, left hand to the right knee. Inhale, center. Exhale, switch sides. Good. Inhale up. Exhale, turn to the right. Inhale to center. One more time on each side. Maybe you want to press and hold here. Press the left hand into the floor. Lift the heart. Lengthen through the spine. Get yourself just a little bit taller. Come back to center. End on the opposite side that we started with. So ending on the right side here. Pressing the right hand into the floor. Lifting the heart. Lengthening through the spine. And inhale. Come back to center. And let's go ahead and exhale. Surrender into a forward fold. Tuck the chin. press down through both sits bones. So press the hands into the floor and press the glutes into the floor. Like you're trying to push the floor away from you. Good. If you want to, from here, we can take the hands and walk them over towards the right side. So we're kind of at an easy, seated, forward fold at a 45-degree angle. We want to make sure that our left sits bone, or our left ischium, stays connected to the mat. So press into the floor with the hands, press into the sits bones. And you can always walk the hands a little farther forward, still pressing in through the hands and the sits bones. Taking a breath here. One more for good measure. And on the inhale, let's walk our hands back to center forward fold. And then on the exhale, walk our hands over to our left side. Right sits bone pressing into the mat. Our chest turned towards our left knee. Our hands walking forward, pressing the hands into the mat, keeping both sits bones, both ischium down on the ground. Breathing here. And when you feel like you've had an equal try on both sides, begin to come back to center, walking the hands to center. And inhale, come all the way up. Perfect. I forgot to switch feet. Oops. That's all right. We'll do some more later. We'll switch the, so take notice which foot is on top. My right foot's on top, so I'm going to cue for left probably next time. But let's go ahead and do Baddha Konasana, which is our butterfly pose. So now we're taking the soles of the feet together. So bringing the soles of the feet together. Let's go ahead and try to keep the big toes touching. We don't want to take our hands and cram and mash and squeeze our feet together. So we just want to use our feet, the weight of the feet, to press together. Our hands are going to be placed on our shin bones. And then from here, we want to take our pelvic girdle, we want to tilt it forward. So the top pointy parts of our hip bones, we want to tilt those forward. I kind of think of it as pressing my belly button forward. And then that way we can really feel the sits bones pressing into the mat. Good. And then we're going to take our belly button. So keeping this tilt forward, or kind of neutral actually, we're going to go ahead and pull the belly button in towards the spine. So sucking it in, engaging the core. And then lifting the heart. And then let's roll the shoulders down and away from the ears. And then from here, can take a breath in. As we exhale, let's bend our elbows and just bring the chest forward. So our shoulder blades are kind of squeezing together behind our back. And elbows kind of squeezing in towards the sides of the body. Lengthening up through the crown of the head, creating some space between the shoulders and ears. Pressing our feet in towards one another. And then when you're ready to, let's just surrender into Baddha Konasana. Surrender into the forward fold. Place the hands out in front of you. And you can do this while you're seated on a block. There's no reason you have to take the block out from underneath you. It just, however you feel like you want to do this pose. Sitting on a block, or if you don't have a block, a blanket is another great tool to use. You might notice the toes want to splay away from one another, and that's okay, as long as we keep the pinky toe side of the foot pressing into one another and the heel is pressing into one another. You can let your toes relax. And let's press into the floor, bring the torso back up. Let's find our Dandasana, our seated staff pose. So with seated staff pose or Dandasana, we want our feet about hip distance apart. Again, removing the fleshy parts from underneath the sits bones, so the sits bones are connected. We want to press through the backs of the knees. It's one of the few times that we cue to press through the backs of the knees and we can kind of almost lock out the legs. We want to have a nice strong quad, strong calf, and we're going to flex through the heel. So pointing through the toe, your toes are pointed away from you. Flexing through the heel means we're going to pull the toes towards us. Our heels are now kind of pointing forward. They're the most forward point of the body. So toes pointing towards us, heels pointing away from us. So our legs are very solid here, feeling very firm. Now you can see I'm kind of slouching a little bit. I've got my belly kind of concaved in. So from here, what we want to do is we want to lengthen the spine. So we're going to inhale and we're going to lift the ribs up. We're going to lift the chest up. Now you can really start to feel those sit bones sinking into the mat. So belly button drawn in here, heart lifted, shoulders, let's roll them up to the ears, and then roll them back and down away from the ears. Now this might be a little bit much here, so we can always place the hands next to the hips to help get us some length in our spine. We can do the tent fingers, or we can just flat palms, or if we have two blocks available, we can place the block on either side and press into the blocks. Breathing here. Chest lifted, pressing through the backs of the knees, flexing through the heels. Our toes are pointed towards us. Our quads are firm and engaged. So we're just hanging out sitting here, right? Sitting in our Dandasana pose, strong, seated. It's basically seated mountain pose. All right, and let's go ahead and release. Whew, nice. All right, so let's do our next pose. Is going to be our fire logs pose. So with that, we're going to take, it's another hip opener. We're going to bring our left shin bone and bring it parallel to the front of the mat. And then we're going to take our right ankle, our right ankle. We're going to cross our right ankle over our left knee. We want to have the ankle bone over the left knee just so it doesn't kind of sneak into this nice little comfortable crease of the knee and kind of turn or stretch out any ligaments or tendons in the outer side of the foot. So we're crossing the ankle over rather than just the foot. So ankle over, or you can also, if you want to cross the foot, you flex through the heel. You got to keep the heel flexed the entire time while in this pose. So I like to cross the knee cross the ankle bone just in case I get a little bit lazy. Or lazy is probably the wrong word, if I have lack of intention. All right, so we're working towards stacking the knees, stacking the shin bones on top of one another. So this might look a little high for you. We might have our knee up a little closer towards our chest, but the great thing is we're going to kind of ease ourselves into this fire logs pose. So we're going to take our hands, clasp our hands, and place them on the outside of our right knee. We want to take our right knee and press into our hands, and then we want to take our hands and pull back into the knee. So we're creating some dynamic tension in the hip. So when you're ready to, hands clasped, place them underneath the right knee or on the outside of the right knee and press the right knee into the hands. As you do this, we're going to inhale and we're going to lift the heart up, lift the chest up, and pull with our hands. We're going to pull toward the right knee towards the chest. And then with our hip, we're going to push the right knee away from us and into the hands. So you want to feel pretty strong here. We're pressing and pulling at the same time through this right hip. Well, you can feel it in the right hip. You're pulling and pressing at the right knee. Good. Let's do one more big breath in. Exhale, press into the right knee. You might see the shins coming a little closer together. They might still be way up here. It's different on each side, and it's different each day. All right, so when you're ready to, let's go ahead and release the hands, and let's use our hands to help uncross our legs. Great. So let's bring the right shin bone parallel to the front. We're taking our left ankle now and crossing it over the right knee. Working to stack the shin bones over one another. But again, could be different on this side. This could be our tight side. So we're going to take our hands, clasp our hands, place them underneath the left knee. Deep breath in. We're going to inhale and lift the chest up tall. Both sits bones pressing into the earth. Press the left knee into the hands and pull the hands into the left knee. So this time creating dynamic tension in the left hip. So left knee pressing down, hands drawing the left knee in towards the chest. Breathing here. Good. Couple more breaths here. Good. And when you feel like you had an equal try on both sides, we'll go ahead and release the hands and then slowly uncross the legs. Let's find our Dandasana again. And from Dandasana, seated mountain pose, let's do a forward fold. So let's just surrender. Let's just go ahead and round the spine, round the shoulders, tuck the chin towards the chest, reach the hands towards the feet or the shins or the ankles, wherever you can hold on to. Find a good anchoring point, wherever that is for you. You can always do the big toe hold. You can do the outside of the heel hold. If you're reaching past, you can clasp the fingertips together, or you can go even farther and you can go for a wrist bind. And inhale, come back up. Let's go ahead and sweep our legs around. Let's come on to all fours. And let's stretch out our toes. So we're going to curl the toes under. Curling the toes under. And then we're going to sink our hips back towards our heels. And walk the torso up. So notice if your pinky toe is not quite participating here, we can use our hands to get our pinky toes to curl under here. If this is a little too intense, we can always use a block. We can place the block between our feet and we can sit down on top of the block with the toes curled under if this is a little bit too much pressure for our toes. Breathing here, toes are curled under. Let's lift the chest. Try to have the shoulders over the hips, hips over the balls of the feet. Good. And while we're here, let's just do a side stretch. Let's reach the right hand up towards the sky, make ourselves nice and long through the right side of the body, and then maybe the left hand sinks down to the floor just for a little support here. And maybe we just reach over towards the left side of the body. And let's try not to let the elbow drop in front of the face. Keep the elbow lifted and reaching over. Good. You can start to hear our feet talking to us, letting us know that there's being stretched out under those toes. Let's switch sides. Right hand comes down to the floor. Left hand reaches all the way up to the sky. Exhale, sink over to the right side. Chin is lifted. Left elbow pressing back, reaching to the right side of the body. Our toes are still curled under. This is also a nice little quad stretch if our quads are real tight. So we're getting a side stretch, a quad stretch, and a toe stretch. It's like a 3 for 1. What a great coupon, right? Good. And we'll hold here. Let's just do a side stretch. Let's reach the right hand up towards the sky. Exhale, sink over the right side. Chin is lifted. Left elbow pressing back, reaching to the right side of the body. Our toes are still curled under. This is also a nice little quad stretch if our quads are real tight. So we're getting a side stretch, a quad stretch, and a toe stretch. It's like a 3 for 1. What a great coupon, right? 3 for the price of 1. All right, inhale, left hand comes back up. Exhale, release. And let's come out of these toe stretch, come onto all fours. Uncurl the toes, and we can just tap our toes on the floor here. Just tap them out. Do it a few times. If you've got downstairs neighbors, maybe do it gently. And from here, we're going to come into our first downward facing dog of the day. So we're going to curl those toes under again, then slowly lift the knees up off the ground, send our hips back and away. Good. So we're making an upside down V shape, or attempting to make an upside down V shape. Good. We can take our dog for a walk. So in downward facing dog, I like to set this up with our feet hip distance apart on the balls of the feet for just a few moments here. Let's come forward into the top of a push-up or a plank position. So if we have to move our hands or our feet, then we are probably out of alignment for downward facing dog. So we want to have our wrists over the elbows over the, wrists under the elbows and elbows under the shoulders. And then belly button drawn in here. And then our hips go up and back. Now from here, we also want to take consideration for our shoulders. So we want to take our elbows, squeeze them in towards one another, or squeeze the biceps towards the ears. And then relax the head. Let the head hang heavy. Head hanging heavy. Sometimes to do that, I need to tuck my chin towards my chest to really remind myself that the top of my head is surrendering to the floor. And that kind of helps stretch out the neck. Good. And then also another nice tip is to feel like you're lifting the tailbone up as high as you can. Lift, lift, lift tailbone high, high, high. And then let the heels melt down towards the ground. So we're no longer putting all the pressure in the toes and the balls of the feet. We're letting the heels sink down towards the ground. And maybe the heels make it all the way to the ground, and maybe they don't. Maybe they made them yesterday and they don't make them today, or maybe they make them today and they may not have made them yesterday. Every time you come into the pose, it's a little different than the day before or the day after. Good. From here, let's take the right leg, lift it up towards the sky. Get a nice long stretch. Point through the left or the right toes. Maybe bend the right knee. Let's roll open the hips. So lifting the right knee up and then thinking of rolling the hips open so the right hip goes to stack over the left hip. Like if you were trying to turn yourself upside down from here. And then from here, roll the hips back over. We're going to sweep and bring in our right knee towards our chest, coming all the way forward. Bring the right knee all the way forward, and then go out towards the outside of the right hand and drop the right knee down. Drop the right foot down. Let the left knee come down to the ground. You can uncurl the left toes and sink down towards the ground. So we're coming into King Pigeon stretch. King Pigeon pose. So, a couple things here. Block is our friend. We can place the block underneath our right glute towards the back. Get ourselves squared here. So we want our hips to be squared forward towards the front of the mat. And then we want our pelvic girdle, our hips, to be equal distance to the floor. So for me, I'm not going to use the block, so that way I can have my hips equal distance to the floor. So equal distance. Good. Sometimes this is a little much on the back knee. We can always fold over the mat and create extra cushion. Or you can modify and go into the reverse pigeon pose, which was like our second pose I think that we did today. So from here, we're going to surrender forward. We can walk the hands forward, walk the arms forward. We can come down onto the elbows if that's available for us. I like a nice little trick when I get a little bit stuffy. I like to do a fist stack. So I take one fist and stack it on top of the other fist. I have my elbows out nice and wide. And then I place my forehead directly on those fists, kind of like in between the eyebrows. And I just press my head firmly into the fists. And that kind of helps give a little release to any pressure I have in my sinuses. Well, the tricky part about this pose is we tend to sink over into our right hip, and then our left hip starts to elevate, and so we kind of get this like we're rolling over towards the right side. So we want to avoid doing that, keeping both hips equal distance to the ground. Sometimes I even think about leaning into my left hip, kind of putting the weight onto the left quad, and then sinking down through the right hip so we can balance them out. You can surrender all the way forward, really walking the hands way forward. Maybe your forehead rests on the mat. Maybe not. Again, when we come into these poses, they shouldn't be painful. They might be a little bit uncomfortable, but if we start to feel any parts that are having any pain or any sharp shooting weird feelings, we can back off and kind of modify that pose. It's one of my favorite poses. I feel like I could be here for forever. When I first started this pose, I didn't think I could. And then it started to become my favorite pose. Could be because I had a lot of tight hip issues. All right, so when you're ready, we're going to come back up into downward facing dog. So we want to walk back up onto our hands, curl our left toes under, lift the left knee off the ground, draw the right knee in towards the chest, pick it up, and then slowly walk it back. Good. And you may want to walk out your dog and sass your hips around a little bit from side to side. Perfect. So let's switch sides. So let's take our left foot up towards the sky, give it a nice long stretch, and then we're going to roll the hips open. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend our left knee. Remember we did this the other side. Bend the left knee so it feels like we're stretching our left quad. Then take our left hip, lift it up as high as you can. Lift up through your left knee as high as you can. Lift up through your left hip, and then roll it over like you're trying to turn yourself around. Good. And then from here, when you're ready to, we'll slowly unroll the hips. We're going to take our right knee. We're going to squeeze it in towards the chest. So bring it forward, squeeze tight, squeeze tight, squeeze tight. Keep squeezing. And then bring the left knee to the outside of the left hand. Drop it down on the mat. And then slowly release the right knee down on the ground. Uncurl the right toes. Let our hips sink down towards the ground. So same thing with this side. We want to make sure that our hips are squared forward towards the front of the mat and that they're equal distance to the ground. So right now my right hip is kind of higher up than my left hip. On this side, I might need the block on this side, might not. Also, we're working towards, if this pose doesn't seem as challenging, we're working towards bringing our left shin maybe a little more parallel to the front of the mat. So you can always walk it farther forward. And then our heart is lifted. Take a big breath in. And on the exhale, surrender forward. Come into forward fold. Perhaps stack the fists. Breathing here. Maybe extend the arms all the way forward. Really surrender. check to see if you're not sneaking over, sinking over to that left glute. We want to have our right hip sinking down as well, really feeling it on the front side of our left psoas. Feeling a good stretch. Our right psoas. Feeling a good stretch in the left glute and groin. Notice if you're resting a lot of the weight onto the elbows and the shoulders. See if we can have the elbows wide and let the shoulders sink down. Kind of releases some of the tension from the shoulders. Also, be kind to that back right ankle. Notice if the whole top of your right foot is on the ground and your ankle is kind of turned out to the side. We just want to have light toes. So top of the right big toe, maybe second toe, have those pointing behind you. Good. And then when you feel like you had an equal try on both sides, we're going to walk the hands back in. We're going to step back into our downward facing dog. So curl the right toes under, lift the right knee off the ground, squeeze and pick that left leg up off the ground and walk it back. Find your downward facing dog. Good, downward facing dog here. Now let's do one more toe curl under. So let's drop the knees down to the mat. Hands and knees, and then curl the toes under. Sink the hips down towards the heels. Walk the hands in. Bring the torso back up. Try to make sure we get the pinky toes have a equal try to get a nice good stretch here. Heart lifted. Breathing here. Let's come into child's pose. Keep the toes curled under. Walk the hands forward. And come up onto all fours. Uncurl the toes. Maybe tap them out if you need to. And let's find an easy seated position again. All right, so now we're going to work to do our knee stack. We're going to take our right foot, we're going to bring it in towards the glute, and we're going to try to point the right knee forward. Then from here, we're going to take our left ankle, we're going to cross it over the right knee. From here, if we can take our left foot and slide it back towards our right hip crease, kind of winding ourselves up like a pretzel. Good. And we're working towards stacking our knees on top of one another. So letting our left knee get stacked over our right knee. And that might not happen today, and that's okay too. We're just working towards it. We're going to do the same thing that we did before when we were doing the knee stack. We're going to take our hands, our fire log stack. We're taking our hands, clasping the hands, placing them underneath the outside of the left knee. Press down with that left knee into the hands. Pull up with the hands into the left knee. Lift the heart. Roll the shoulders back and down away from the ears. You might notice as you roll the shoulders back, it creates a little bit more tension in your left hip. Breathing here, working on stacking the knees. Good. If this seems easy for you, you may work to stack those knees. Those knees might get stacked. They might be nice and cemented towards one another, right on top of one another. So from here, you would want to keep the sits bones down on the ground and come into that forward fold. Leaning forward, walking the hands out, pushing the hands into the floor so that way, just in case we collapse into this pose and it's a little too much for our hips, we have a good way to back ourselves out of that. So pressing into the hands, actively pressing through the arms as we surrender forward, or staying with the hands clasped, pulling against the knee, pressing the knee against the hands. One more breath here, and then we're going to come into our fishtail pose. So fishtail, we're just going to bring in as we exhale. Let's unstack the knees, place the sole of the left foot on the ground. We're going to have a nice twist here. We're going to twist from the belly button, then the chest, then the shoulders. We're going to take our right elbow, crossing it over the left knee. So this is where the tail is, from the left foot up through the right arm. So twisting from the belly button first, then the chest, the shoulders. Our right hand can go behind our right hip, and then finally looking over the right shoulder. And if you want to, you can wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, really create that fishtail. Two more breaths here. Lift the chest, press the belly in towards the left thigh. When we unwind, we want to inhale and bring our head back to center first. Then release the right elbow, the chest, the belly. And let's go ahead and switch legs. So before, when we did the knee stack, we had our right foot tucked in. So now we're going to have our left foot. So left heel, bring it to the inside, or outside of the right hip. So our left knee is pointing forward. Take our right ankle, cross it over the left knee. Try to keep both sits bones down on the ground. And then again, working towards stacking the knees. And each side is different, so you might be able to stack the knees on this side a lot easier than the other side. Maybe your right side is your open side and your left side is your closed side, or vice versa. So taking the same care, clasping the hands, placing them on the outside of the right knee, pressing the right knee down into the hands, pulling the hands up into the right knee, which creates that tension in the right hip. Then on the inhale, lift the chest. Take the shoulders on the exhale, roll them back and down away from the ears. Breathing here. Couple more breaths here. And again, if you're feeling extra flexy today, if you're feeling an extra flexible today, I can't even get that word out. It's how often I don't use that word. If you're feeling like a gummy bear, go ahead and round the spine, walk the hands forward. Again, remembering to press into the hands as you're leaning forward, as you're rolling forward or surrendering forward. Both sits bones remain on the ground, so that right one likes to come up off the mat. Press through the right sits bone. Round the spine, surrender into the fold. Or stay here. Hands clasped, pressing the right knee into the hands back up into the right knee. We're just going to give 2 or 3 more breaths until we feel like we've had an equal try on both sides. Chest lifted, or surrendered, I guess, depending on which version you went into. If we're surrendered, let's push into the hands, walk ourselves back up, and then slowly begin to bring the right knee up, plant the right foot down on the mat, take the belly, press it forward into the right thigh, lift the chest up. Let's take the left elbow, cross it over the right knee, twisting from the belly button first, then the chest, then the shoulders. Right hand presses down into the floor, give the length through the spine, and then finally follow the gaze over the right shoulder. breathing here. Oh, I notice my left knee is starting to float up, so keep the left knee down on the mat. And again, if you want to wiggle the fingers and wiggle the toes, right toes, left fingers, really get into that fishtail. And when we're ready to come out of it, we'll bring the head back to center first. Release the left elbow, shoulders, chest, and belly. Let's come back up into our Dandasana. Lift the heart up nice and tall. Press through the backs of the knees, flex through the heels. Toes are pointing towards us. Belly button drawn in. Heart lifted, chest lifted, shoulders back and down away from the ears. And on the exhale, let's surrender forward, round the spine. Shoulders, neck, and head come down last. Pressing through the backs of the knees, reaching towards the feet, reaching towards the ankles. Find whatever you can hold on to and really draw yourself down towards your thighs. Keep pressing through the backs of the knees, flexing through the heels. Strong, active legs here. And on the inhale, come back up. Let's draw the right knee in towards the chest and then open the right knee out towards the side. So we're going to come into our runner's stretch. I also forgot to mention we do have straps or socks. Socks are a great alternative. Sometimes they get a little stretched out, so maybe an old sock or perhaps an old towel. And we can loop the sock, strap, towel, whatever it is. Maybe it's our yoga strap, if that's holding our mat together when it's not in use. And looping that over the foot. We want to make sure that our foot is nice and flat. So we don't want our left ankle to kind of cock to the inside. We want to have a nice neutral ankle. So I like to cue to flex through the heel. That helps me keep a strong ankle, and it prevents me from, putting any extra or undue pressure on ligaments or tendons in our left ankle that we don't need to do. So belly button's drawn in, heart's lifted, shoulders are back and down away from the ears, and then we're going to exhale. And as we exhale, we're going to hinge from the hips and pull the elbows in towards the sides of the body. So it's a strong runner's stretch versus a surrendered runner's stretch. From here, we can also walk the hands more forward on the strap. Nice firm grasp on the strap. And then if we want to draw ourselves closer, start with a bend in the elbows. So trying not to surrender around the spine. So belly button's drawn in, pelvic girdle's tilting forward, chest forward, so we're kind of leading with the chest. Shoulders are hopefully back. We'll take 2 more breaths here and then we can surrender into this pose. There's a little bit of tension being created in the back, in between the shoulder blades. On the next exhale, surrender down. Let it all go. Round the spine. Maybe walk the hands more forward on the strap, or maybe you don't need the strap anymore and you can reach an ankle. You can clasp the hands underneath the ankle. Or maybe you can reach the foot, clasping the hands underneath the foot. Press through the back of the knee. Left knee is pressing down towards the ground. Left leg is still active, even though our chest is surrendered forward. Let's do 1 more breath here. Good. On the next inhale, roll it all the way up. Let's switch sides. So right foot extends forward, left knee goes out to the side. Using our handy dandy strap. Press through the back of the right knee, flex through the right heel, toes point towards us, chest lifts with the inhale, and exhale, hinge forward. Good. Breathing here. Keep pressing through the back of the knee. Also, I forgot to mention we can do this stretch or this pose sitting on a block also, especially if we have the tight hamstrings. Really let gravity help into this pose. It's a little easier to press through the back of the knee. We can walk the hands more forward on the strap, remembering that our chest is leading, our shoulders are back. Take a few more breaths here. And then on the exhale, surrender forward. Round the spine, round the shoulders. A few more breaths here. Keep pressing through the back of the right knee. Reach down towards the ankle, down towards the foot. And when you feel like you've had an equal try on both sides, bring the torso back up. Good. We'll release the strap off to the side. All right, so we're going to do Lotus pose. We'll start off with half lotus, so I'm going to turn towards you. Let's start by drawing our right knee in towards the chest. And then we're going to take our right ankle and actually, it'll be easier if we draw the left one in as well. So let's take our left ankle and kind of cross it underneath or behind the right foot. Press down through the left knee, and then we're going to take our right ankle and we're going to pull it in, draw it in towards right ankle towards the left hip crease. So now our right knee can sink down towards our left foot. And we're active through our right foot. So our right foot, we want to flex through the heel, bring the heel into the left hip crease, and let as we're, you know how we pointed the toes when we're flexed, we're going to let those hook onto the thigh. And then lift the heart up. Good. And we can do the same thing we did with our thumbs before. With the right thumb, we can pull up on the inside of the groin, so pulling up and then rolling out, pushing down through the fingertips. So lifting through the thumb and pushing down through the fingertips to really roll this hip open. And again, our shoulders are over our hips. So if we found ourselves hunching or slouching, remember to lift the heart up tall so our sits bones are connected to the ground. So let's switch sides now. Uncross, maybe shake it out if you need to. Give it a little shake. Good. So now let's bring our right leg, cross it so it's parallel in front of the mat. The shin is parallel in front of the mat. Bend the left knee. Lift up the left foot. Draw the left heel, flex through the left heel, and draw the left heel in towards the hip crease, the right hip crease. Good. And then slowly let the left knee settle down towards the right foot. We want to stay active through our left ankle as we come into our half lotus pose. Staying active through the ankles helps protect our ankles while we're in this pose. One or two more breaths here. And then we'll release. Use the hands to help unclasp. Maybe shake it out a little bit. And if you'd like to try full lotus, we can try it. So we'll bring the left shin parallel to the front of the mat first. take the right heel or place the right sole of the foot on the ground, flex through the right heel, bring the right heel up into the left hip crease, flex through the heel, have the toes hook, and then maybe kind of shimmy walk the left foot forward, working to get our right knee down on the ground or towards the ground. Then we can take our hands, we can pick up our left foot, draw the left foot maybe just to the right knee crease. Or maybe we can lift the left foot up and slowly start to draw it in towards the right hip. And you can see Lotus is not the easiest pose to do in the world when you have the tight knees, tight hip creases. As we exhale, we can think opening up, kind of opening up like a lotus, like a flower, just opening the hips, opening from the bowl of the water, breathing here. And then, of course, to come out of it, using the hands, slowly lift at the kind of near the ankle, draw one foot down, same thing, lift up, draw the other foot down. Switch sides. If we do it on one side, we should do it on the other side, right? Just give it a try. So now we're going to have the right shin parallel to the front of the mat. We're going to bring in the left heel, flex through the heel, bring the left heel in towards the right hip crease. Let the left knee sink down towards the ground. Something that's also nice to have, you can place a blanket or a towel rolled up underneath to help support. And then from here we can take and bring our hands underneath the right ankle. Slowly draw it into the knee crease. Maybe slowly tuck it up into the hip crease. Breathing here. If we have any knee injuries, really make sure we're paying attention to how that feels for us. When you're doing these big knee bends, something that's also nice to have is you can take a washcloth and you can kind of roll it up and you can place it in behind the knee crease, and that helps relieve some of the pressure in the knees when we do these big knee bends. Try it, see if it feels good. Sometimes I just take my pants and roll them all the way up and stick them behind the knees. So sometimes that helps. But again, listening to your body, knowing when you need to come out of this, using the hands, slowly drawing the foot away. Same thing, other foot. Good. Take care, come out nice and slowly. Extend the legs all the way out. Press through the backs of the knees. Maybe shimmy the legs once you get comfortable. Get all the blood flowing back through the limbs, the lower limbs. Good. And then from here, we're going to find our way down to our favorite pose, one of my favorite poses, Savasana. So maybe you want to bend the knees and slowly roll yourself all the way down. Maybe you just want to jump into it. I don't know. However you want to get there. Now in Savasana, we want to let our legs feel as heavy as they can. So we're going to go through a tightness drill, and we're going to make every possible muscle in our entire body as tight as we possibly can. So for the first few moments, let's just bring the legs together. Squeeze the legs together, making yourself like a tight pencil. Take the arms and squeeze them in towards the sides of the body as tight as you can. Take our toes and curl the toes under. Squeeze the toes and just roll them as tight as you possibly can. So your toes are kind of curled under. arms are squeezing in, legs are squeezing towards one another. We're going to take our hands, make fists, curl the fingers in towards the knuckles, in towards the palms, squeeze the fists as tight as you can, and then turn the wrists, so the forearms, get nice and tight. And then take those wrists, take the wrists and bring them up towards your shoulders. So we're bending the elbow. So now our biceps are tight and our forearms are tight and our fists are tight and our toes are squeezing and our legs are squeezing towards one another, and we're pressing down towards the backs of the knees, and we're squeezing the glutes. Engage the glutes, squeeze the glutes together. Good. And then take the belly button and press it all the way down to the ground. Suck that belly button all the way down to the ground. And then from here, shrug the shoulders up towards the ears, so there's no space between the shoulders, no space between the ears. And then take the eyes and squeeze the eyes nice and tight, and squeeze the eyebrows together, and scrunch the nose so the nose is all squished. And squeeze the jaw, squeeze your teeth, clench your teeth, press your tongue to the top of your mouth. Squeeze every muscle you can think of. Squeeze the top of your head. Squeeze your ears. Every muscle in the body you can possibly think of. Give it a big, big squeeze. Take a big breath in. And then on the exhale, release. Let go of all of the tension we just created. Let the toes uncurl. Let the feet turn out. Let the glutes relax. Let the fingers open up. Walk the shoulders down and let the shoulder blades melt into the ground. Let the jaw relax and the tongue get all floppy. Even the space between the eyebrows gets to melt down. Feel like the eyebrows are melting off the sides of the temples. Just for a few moments, take these final breaths for yourself. Take a breath of appreciation for what your body does for you. Let go of any controlled breath you may have. Let your mind be free from thought. Just exhale any distraction that comes into the mind. When you're ready to, begin to wiggle the toes. Turn the ankles a few times. Begin to wiggle the fingers and roll the wrists a few times. And start to bend the elbows and the knees. Maybe bring the knees into the chest and give them a big squeeze. When you're ready to, just roll over just to the right side of the body. Let your head rest in your arms. Keeping the eyes closed. With our eyes closed, we'll use our hands to press our way up to a seated position. Comfortable seated position, keeping the eyes closed. Our hearts lifted. We'll stack the spine, one piece of vertebrae over the next until we get all the way up to the top of the head. With our next inhale, let's sweep the arms up overhead. And as we exhale, bring the hands together, draw the hands down to heart center, elbows wide. Thank you for practicing with me tonight. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until next time, namaste.